before I had always said like healthcare was something that's just done to us. And I'm hoping people are seeing, oh, okay, it's not that way. We actually can affect this in a positive way. Now we are self-funded, which means we are paying specifically the claims that run through.
So the company is self-insuring the plan.
Yeah. So if we are using the insurance, we have those healthcare dollars, we're spending it. But if we're not, well, we're not spending any money. We also have what's called stop loss. Worst case scenario, you have like a $4 million claim or something like that. We have protections in place. We're all in the driver's seat together.
I'm excited to be joined again by Kim Dinwiddie, my colleague here at Empowered Ventures, who heads up HR for our enterprise. And Kim, there's been a lot of fun and interesting work you and we have been doing in the healthcare space. We have kind of a general program we call Healthcare for Us. So why don't we start there? Like, why don't you give our everyone a reminder? What is Healthcare for Us?
Yeah. Well, that's actually an exciting thing to talk about because we've had Healthcare for Us around that we've been calling it something, but I don't know that we've ever really dug in and said, here's our philosophy. Like here are the words, here's the language that we can use to talk about it. So we did recently just walk through and just talk about what does it mean for all of us and what's our goal in it. And where we landed is our goal is to build a healthcare approach that is sustainable for our businesses and beneficial for the people. And we have really narrowed in to some priorities on that. And, how does each of those work? And just, I think the top two are important to just touch on a little bit, to be better stewards of healthcare and empower people to become better healthcare consumers. Because those are really the two-pronged approaches that touch on that sustainability for the businesses and all of our employee owners.
Yeah, I love it. I love where it landed. It starts with an and, which is like, I think it's a really important thing to highlight is like, we're not focused on one thing or the other. It's we care deeply about both the sustainability of the plan for the businesses and also for the actual experience and care and health of our folks. So is that kind of what powers this philosophy for you as well?
It is. And I think it's also important that we aren't too specific because healthcare changes whether it's just the industry or how we approach it, what tools and resources we have. And so it's important to be able to pivot when we need to. And if we're too specific in our approach, then we're kind of inside a box. And that's something I think definitely we don't want to be in. Yeah. Especially to meet our priorities and our goals on the platform.
Makes sense. Yeah. So last time I think we talked, we had already kicked off Healthcare for Us. I mean, maybe you had shared at the time that we were in the middle of kind of doing an RFP with like our providers and the people who help us manage our health benefits and stuff. And also, I think you had done a fair amount of, we asked for the input from everybody. I think we'd done some surveying and gathered some insights from everybody. What has happened since then? Any big changes, anything to note over the last period of time, since we last spoke?
Yeah. So one thing that did not change is that we stayed with our strategic partner, LHD. They've been with us for a few years, but it was, I will say, like a reset conversation probably of like, okay, here's what our thoughts are on healthcare, where we think we're headed, and to make sure that we had that strong partner with us. And we ended up staying with LHD and feel like that was a good decision to make. And the other major thing I think that we changed was moving to self-funded. So I'll give a little bit of detail. What even does that mean? So self-funding, well, let me back up. Previously, we were in an environment or a funding environment where we just paid a premium, much like if you had car insurance. Yeah. You know how much you're going to pay and you pay it no matter if you've had an accident or not. So our insurance premium, we just paid a flat dollar amount. Well, now we are self-funded, which means we are paying specifically the claims that run through the system.
This is from the company level, just
from the company level. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So if we are using the insurance, we have those healthcare dollars, we're spending it. But if we're not, well, we're not spending any money. We're not just giving it to our carriers to hold on to if, I guess, yeah. And I think that if we need it, now we are truly paying those dollars that actually come in. But I think it's important to know that we also have what's called stop loss. And that's a safety net is kind of how I like to think of it. If there's some really large claims that hit, we do have a specific dollar amount that we are protected against, meaning we have an insurance policy that will kick in. So, worst case scenario, you have like a $4 million claim or something like that. We have protections in place, but for the most part, we are paying dollar for dollar for the claims that occur.
So let's dig into this.
That's a pretty big change.
That's a big change. And let's spend a little more time unpacking it, because I think you just shared a lot of really interesting and insightful or interesting components of it that are worth digging into a little further. So it's called self-funded. Could also probably be called self-insured, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so the company is self-insuring the plan. But part of that is also that the plan participants, the insured, the employees, they are continuing to experience it as a similar insurance plan. So it doesn't really change their direct experience in a certain sense. Is that right?
That is right. And so people are probably like, well, then how do you come up with the amount of money that I have to pay? How do you calculate my premium? And that's something that our broker helps do. They have underwriters. So what they do is they run projections and estimate, okay, here's what plans have looked like over the past 3 or 4 years, and here's what we think they're going to be or potentially could be. The interesting thing is, though, what they also run through that model is that, we'll talk about this in a minute, but when you change a carrier, they have different discounts and pricing. And so they run that through their model too. So you're truly doing a premium equivalent rate for all our employee owners based on what our usage has been, but also based on what our current partner or carrier's pricing levels are.
Yeah. So this gets really into healthcare is so deep and interesting and so many tentacles. But so the carrier being like, Cigna or Anthem or whoever, really, I think, and I'm really a layman, in the previous environment where we were fully insured, not self-insured, or mostly fully insured, pretty much, the carrier provides a few different kind of services. Really, they're kind of providing the insurance part, which is like, if we'll cover anything that's over and above what you're paying us, like we pay them a premium, and then if the costs are higher, well, that's the insurance company's problem, essentially. That's one thing they do. But the other thing they do that is kind of not the same thing is they have this network of how they approach pricing with all these, healthcare providers. And so it may sound weird to folks, like, well, why are you even working with a carrier if you don't need if you're self-insuring? But so they're still giving us, we're still using a different service that a carrier provides, not the insurance part. Is that right?
That is right. So each carrier has discounted pricing. So they negotiate prices with providers. And a provider could have one amount that they've negotiated with a Cigna and another amount that they've negotiated with an Anthem. Which is it's always been interesting to me, but that's how it works. And so we use the network in order to get their discount pricing, essentially.
Yeah. So that's why our folks still, and you could maybe just mention like who our carrier is, but they still get a card, and they still have the same experience because we're still using that network, essentially.
Yeah. So that's where it gets a little bit trickier this year too, because going self-funded, let's start with the network first. So the network that we essentially you rent into or buy into is United Healthcare.
Yeah. So we switched from Cigna to United, basically.
Yeah. but we have a third party administrator, and that's really UMR. So that's the name that you see on your card, and you use their website and everything. But so UMR is the one that processes the claims for
so you'll
everyone.
People will hear a TPA, and that's third party administrator. They're doing the accounting, really, the bookkeeping for all the claims and everything. And in our case now, we're working with them for that, with UMR for that. But we're renting the United network for the pricing and everything. Whereas previously Cigna did both.
Cigna did, both. But then there's also, I mentioned early on, the stop loss, that safety net that we have.
Yep.
So we have that through Sun Life. So that's another
which folks don't need to know all this, but it's probably good for them to know. I mean, it's we've put a lot of thought into how we kind of structure the plan, and it's not us. It is us, but we're getting help to figure all this out.
Yeah.
But a lot of thought has been put into kind of create our own self-funded approach, correct? Because and how would you describe? We talked about this analogy at one point. I mean, really, we've shifted from being in the back seat to being in the driver's seat in many ways, and this is a big result of that ultimately.
It really is, because before everything was really bundled with Cigna. We gave Cigna our money, and they did the third party administration of it. They had their own prescription benefit manager, and they had their own stop loss carrier. So truly, everything was really run through Cigna. Well, part of going self funding, part of moving into the driver's seat, is taking that apart. Unbundling it all, so that way we can pick and choose who are the right partners for us. And so even the pharmacy now, that's through TrueRx. So someone totally different, also another one. So the unbundling piece is not everyone who goes self-funded does that. But in order to pick the best partners, I personally think you want to unbundle as much as you can.
That's smart. What are some of the other benefits of going this approach, other than being able to pick your different partners?
Well, some of the cool things you can do add-ons. So right now we have what's called Teladoc. That's a pretty big new thing this year. You can get great quality care, and it costs our employee owners $0 out of their pocket. So the company also saves money though on those costs. Reason being, whenever you do that, that is a cheaper fee, we'll call it, than maybe you're going to go to urgent care or an emergency room. And so Teladoc adding on some of these, I guess we'll call them just additions to the plan, is something that you have the flexibility to do when you start unbundling and you are in the driver's seat.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine Teladoc could be pretty significant in a given situation. Like if I'm thinking of a parent who's stuck at home with a bunch of kids and one of them gets sick, and it's like, do I have to pile them all in the car? And I mean, a true challenging situation to deal with. And it sounds like it could be a lot easier to get some help, a real doctor, right there on the computer. Maybe. Yeah,
it could be Saturday morning, 2 a.m. What are you going to do? And also the great thing is that the Teladoc, that experience, they'll share any notes of your visit with your primary care physician.
Wow.
If you have one, they can call in prescriptions. I think a really added benefit is they also do mental health visits.
That's great.
Dermatology. And so it's like a FaceTime. So if you have a rash and you're like, what is happening? You can go through the app and you're able to utilize that. So a lot of different resources. And if it's something they can't, help you with, they'll obviously be like, you need to either schedule an appointment with your own physician or go to urgent care.
It's peace of mind to some degree. Like, should I go to the ER or the emergent care right now? Is this a serious issue, or is it something that I can wait till I can get into my doctor or whatever? So super smart. What else are you excited about with the new approach, and any other benefits you're seeing for either the company or for the beneficiaries of the plan?
Yeah, I'll say I think for the beneficiaries of the plan, I think the customer service, I think the level of customer service that folks are able to get now is a lot better. than it was before. I'll also say, just from like the administrative side, so probably some of our HR folks out there, they can actually call and talk to someone at UMR. Cigna, it was just a customer service 800 number. We now have dedicated reps that know our plan.
Don't
they
come
know
at
us.
Cigna, leave us alone. But
Yeah. So we have people, we have those resources. So that's on that side of it.
Yeah.
From the company's perspective, we have access now that we haven't had before. That I can see, before I would say that we would be talking about the plan, what changes to make. We were just guessing. I like to envision just a dartboard and we were throwing darts and hoping it lands well. Well, now we know if they are, we can look and say, okay, these prescriptions, there's a bundle of these prescriptions being filled at a higher cost pharmacy than a lower cost pharmacy.
Yeah.
Well, how that's important to us is because then we can just push out communication and education so people know.
Yeah.
And also we just know, maybe there were 30 emergency room visits that occurred that weren't necessarily critical and needed to be done. Okay, well, we need to push out some education and information on how to choose, when to use it.
It's back to your point earlier about being able to provide the right kind of education to help people become even better consumers of this product. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't know what you don't know. And especially when it's healthcare, that time is sensitive and urgent. Typically, you just do what you've always done. So pushing out that education just lets people know, oh, there are options now. And what are those options?
Yeah. It's exciting. Honestly, this is a big change, and it's neat to see it come to fruition after we've talked about it a couple years, but hopefully as employee owners, how do you feel like everyone should feel about kind of the fact that we're in the driver's seat now?
I'm hoping that they understand that they're in the driver's seat with us. This isn't just us at that EV level doing this. We need that communication. We need to know what the experience is like. The exciting thing is, I think people are sharing that now with me and the others, HR mainly at their companies. But we're all in the driver's seat together.
Yeah.
And we need that constant communication just to know, hey, do you have ideas? Have you heard of another group doing something that you're intrigued by? Share it with us.
Yeah.
Did you have a fantastic experience you'd like to share? I always like to throw that in because usually we only hear the bad ones, but but I actually have been hearing some really good stories about things too. But I think that as employee owners, to know we're all in the driver's seat together. And I think before I had always said like healthcare was something that's just done to us. And I'm hoping people are seeing, oh, okay, it's not that way. We actually can affect this in a positive way. Yeah.
That's amazing. What do you think in terms of where we go from here? Like this effort, this healthcare for us effort, now that we've made a couple big changes, what do you see going forward?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, it is a multi-year effort. I think people are like, okay, well, we made a change. We're done. No, it's not. It's going to be an ongoing. And really, whenever you move to self-funding, self-insured, you have some good years and we're able to stabilize those premium increases. I mean, that's obviously the goal. And to offer great coverage for people, whatever they're looking for. So I think that's important to note, but also that we're constantly talking about it. We just had our first strategy conversation for renewal, and it's just, we just finished first quarter of the calendar year, but there's some interesting initiatives out there, I think, that could be potentials, and that's on our radar, and we're talking about it. And so I think that's what's important to know. It's a constant conversation that happens all year long. And I have to say, I think that's unique for us because I think sometimes people will meet around summertime to start talking about renewals. And at that point, be looking like, oh, what's the plan been doing? Well, we're looking at what the plan has been doing every month. Like we're just taking a look, and so we can pivot when we need to. Yeah. But always on the lookout for those just unique partnerships that may break away from that traditional environment that we're currently in.
Yeah, that's exciting. So we're in a very different way than in the past, we're really monitoring kind of what a lot of the others are doing, what experiments even that are happening out there that might not be ready for prime time, but maybe when some approach is ready for prime time, like we'll be positioned to kind of adopt it if we feel like it's going to benefit our team. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it is an exciting team. And I think it's also good to know that, we're also keeping an eye out on maybe some people are starting to do something, but there could be some regulations that we know are going to be coming up. Well, those are things we're not going to put in place and have to take away. Right. So there's a lot of different angles that we look at healthcare. Yeah,
that's exciting. All right, Kim. Well, anything else you'd want to share before we call it an episode?
Yeah, I do just think it's all about communication. And as people, are starting to think more, hopefully, about healthcare, just share experiences. If, again, if you're get a handwritten note, as one of our folks did from TrueRx.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Let's find out about that and share those positive experiences.
Yeah. So reach out to you, Kim. Should they just reach out to you? Okay.
Yeah. Would love that.
Awesome. Okay. And your email is kim@empowered.ventures, right?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for coming on Empowered Owners to talk about healthcare. I think you made it a super interesting and fun topic, which is not easy to do. So great job.
It's not. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.